Well, welcome to Medical Sales U. I'm your host, Dave Sterrett, and today we have a special guest, Sydney Gramuglia, who came to me, and she now just landed a fantastic offer as an oncology clinical educator. She is a nurse. Sydney, it's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, Sydney, your story is inspiring, and we want to go back. We want to hear your story because I think there's a lot of nurses who are trying to navigate their own career, right? They're trying to decide, should they try something new? And sometimes nurses find that time, like, should I go and get my master's degree? Should I try a different division? Should I, and there's kind of this, like, should I be a travel nurse? Like different journeys, but you have your own story. And I was just curious, like, one is, Sydney, why did you reach out to me in MedicalSalesU?
So get a little bit about my background. So you're so right. There's so many different avenues in nursing that I, going into nursing school, didn't even realize there was so many different ways that you could use this degree. So I was not the traditional, I was a lot different than a lot of my peers in nursing school. I always knew I wanted to do something with people. I love communicating with people. I love building connections with them. It's something I think I'm really good at. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. I also grew up with my grandparents living in an addition on my house. So I always gravitated towards caring for older people mostly, which kind of set me apart from my peers, because when I went into nursing school, a lot of people were like, oh, labor and delivery, NICU, peds. And I was always like, I don't really have any interest in that. I always gravitated more towards elderly people. So I actually didn't know what I wanted to do in nursing school. I never really found my niche in school. You only do so many rotations. We didn't do an oncology rotation. So I went out and did a med surg. I worked in the hospital for about 9 months, but I graduated in 2020 in the thick of COVID.
Wow.
So I was really struggling. I had so many thoughts where I said to myself, why did I do this? This is the most depressing career ever. This is so hard. So many people were dying. They were so sick. You had to be completely alone. So I was, our floor turned completely to COVID patients. And I used to get in trouble by my superiors because I was spending too much time in the rooms and it had to be minimal exposure. And I just felt so bad because they would want to talk. They're sitting in there by themselves. They haven't been with a person for 6 hours. And I'm like, so I would sit there and chat with them, and my charge nurse would be like, you have to get out of that room.
Your charge nurse is like, hurry up. You're like, this is a long story. She's, they're like, this patient's probably telling you some long stories.
Yeah, and I'm not going to just leave. That's rude. And they haven't talked probably in 5 hours.
Wow.
Or 4 hours. So I said to myself, so then I realized that I didn't have enough time to do that connection. You're inpatient, you're moving. You've got 6 patients. They need meds. They need this. So I actually hated working inpatient. And I think a lot of people say maybe it would have been different if it wasn't in the middle of COVID. But then fast forward, I moved out where my husband was for dental school in Buffalo. And I took a job in rheumatology, and I was doing infusion. So that taught me like time management, precision, but also being in the outpatient space, where I had to educate, build rapport with patients, but I had the time to do so. So I really enjoyed that. And then a position came available at Roswell Park in Buffalo in oncology, and it was both infusion and clinic. So I loved the idea of being able to do both of those things back and forth. And then it was also a travel nurse position, so better money. And I was able to use my New York, address, all that stuff. Wow. So that was a perfect segue into oncology. And then that's when I realized how much I loved it, because the amount of like emotional depth and like the emotional intelligence that you have to build, and being in these situations with these people who are in like the scariest point of their life, but also they are teaching you so much because they're so strong and they're so resilient. And I was just hooked. It was like a level of compassion that I don't think anyone realizes that you need. unless you're living it every single day. And that I didn't even maybe realize that I had to the extent that I did. So I really did fall in love with it. And as much as it may seem like it was really kind of a sad type of specialty, it can be, but I just didn't really think of it like that entirely. I just learned so much, and just, they were so inspiring to me, these patients. So I worked there, and I loved my time at Roswell. And then I actually came down to South Carolina because my husband matched for a residency down here. And I worked at MUSC Hollings Cancer Center. And in this position, I really got to learn a lot. It was just the clinic side of things. So I managed about 500 plus patients with plasma cell disorders in a myeloma clinic. But it was really more of a like coordination, not as much hands-on as I wanted. I would go in and give post-transplant, post-CAR T vaccinations and some education, but I didn't feel like I was getting enough. And I felt like I was really sitting at a computer a lot of the day, and it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I knew that I wanted and I was able and capable to do more and move up in my career, but I still wanted to work with this population. So that's when I started to. So I was kind of silently looking into the medical sales space and starting to follow people on LinkedIn. And when I would talk to some of the reps that would come into the clinic, they would say LinkedIn is huge, and we don't really learn about that in nursing school, as important as it is to have a good LinkedIn profile. So I kind of judged that up a little bit, and then found Dave. I found you.
So that's how you first came across me, was on LinkedIn. Is that right?
Yes. I saw you on LinkedIn. I was trying to follow some medical sales professionals, and then I saw you on LinkedIn. So then I was like, wow, this is so cool, because I think a lot of people could probably agree, as they're maybe trying to transition into this space, that you kind of feel like, okay, well, I don't have any sales background. I don't have any business background. So I was like, can I do this? So then when I saw that you didn't have sales background or medical background, I was like, this guy, he got in. This is awesome. Like, how inspiring, how cool to be able to learn from someone like you. So I found you on LinkedIn. I hit you up, and then into the program I jumped in.
Well, you jumped in immediately, and you did so well, but it was a challenge at first, right? Yeah. Like, now, by the way, do you feel good about sharing the role that you just accepted?
Absolutely. So, I'm so excited about it. Honestly, I really haven't been this excited about a job probably yet. Of course, the first job when you're a nurse, but I am so excited for this job. A lot of it too is because, so this role, clinical nurse educator, I'm going to be educating infusion nurses on a new drug that Sun Pharma is launching the beginning of January, the beginning of the year. It's a PD-L1 inhibitor. So immunotherapy for cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma that can't be excised or radiated. So, and it was really cool, as I was applying and doing all the things in the prep for this job, I got to do a little bit of research into the PD-1 and PD-L1 pathway. And I felt like I was back in nursing school again, which was really cool. But this position I'm really excited for also because of the leaders that I'm working with. So Jennifer Edwards is who reached out to you. Of course, so
and I'll just pause there for the audience. So one of the hiring managers, also like Sydney, saw my post on LinkedIn about MedicalSalesU, and she had left one large pharmaceutical company, and she moved over. She also is a nurse, and her last name's Edwards, right? Jennifer Edwards. Never met her in person, but she said she was expanding her team, and she asked me if I knew any good nurses. She knew I had good talent in the program. I said, well, there actually are 2 nurses who've joined my program recently, and they're good communicators. I think they could do this. But you still had to show up. So she reached out to you, right?
Yeah.
And okay, and keep going.
Yep. So her and Susan Giacalone, so she is with Eversana, Jen is with Sun Pharma. The 2 of them, so it was a 5-round interview process. So, but I got to interview with, so the first one was kind of a pre-screening. So after she reached out to you, I got the link to apply. And then I had the pre-screening interview, all the questions like, are you okay with traveling? It's a lot of travel. Do you have a reliable car? All that fun stuff. Then the second one was with Susan. So, and immediately I looked up to her. She has her master's in nursing. She is an MSL. She has a really, really impressive background. So, of course, I was a little bit intimidated, but immediately on the first interview, so all of the interviews were on Zoom except for the fifth and final one.
Okay.
So the second Zoom interview, immediately I felt comfortable with her. She's so wonderful and obviously so smart. She's done so many amazing things. Really someone I look up to. Then I had the next one with Jennifer, and I was so excited for that too, because I felt like we had already exchanged a little bit with that first, here's the link to apply. We know Dave together. So when I talked to her, immediately the same thing. And she is so inspiring and so uplifting. And it's so apparent already. I haven't even started the job, but it's so apparent that the two of them want to build this team and want to bring people up. And they just want to keep making people better and their team better and stronger. And it's so inspiring to be working for people on a team like that. And I'm just so excited for that, as well as the now more connections. I'm now out in this field. I'm getting to talk to fellow infusion nurses and making them feel confident, educating them on the drug, making sure that they feel like they can give it confidently and they can educate their patients. And I'm just so excited to be able to really bring together all of my experiences as a nurse, but then also tie it up with all of my favorite parts about being a nurse. And I feel like this is exactly what that is.
Yes. And let's just jump in there a little bit for our audience, because there's other nurses listening and they're wondering, okay, maybe I need to get into pharmaceutical or medical device sales. And I think when you first came to me, you were kind of in that area as well. And we started thinking, okay, oncology and saying, look, you're a good communicator. You can go a number of different paths, right? Mm-hmm. And I think in that moment early on, I advised you to go after both the clinical educator and the sales positions, because you're both communicating to, one is more to the physicians, one's to more the nurses. Now, for our audience, a clinical educator role is not considered a sales position, right? It's not necessarily. Now, there is a bonus structure, and I always say to everybody, you are selling, even though it's not considered a sales position, but you'll have to work closely with the oncology sales specialist. But what you will do is you will provide education, because these nurses are administering for the very first time a treatment. And with any drug, they may have questions about the dosing. They may have questions about the adverse reactions, the side effects, how to mitigate those. There might need to be some prophylactic, some strategies, some other medications to go alongside. That is what an oncology clinical educator does, is they will work closely with the sales rep in oncology pharma, like if it's in oncology pharma, or even a different disease, is to make sure that these nurses are confident in administering this drug. And so sometimes this education goes, once they get that first patient, that first order, you will come along and educate. But there's also this proactive approach, right? Like even before there is a patient, you want to make sure that these nurses are confident and ready to go. And so that's kind of, is that fair to say about the role that you just accepted?
Definitely. Yep. You hit it right on the head. It's a lot of, it's being able to talk with the infusion nurses. You said it perfectly.
It's a peer-to-peer conversation, right? Because they're looking at me and they're like, who's this guy? He's got a religion background,
Yes.
And they want to go into, but I've never given a patient an infusion, but you have. And so that's why, now, by the way, you accepted this job offer. And one of the things I also say is the income, and I don't know how comfortable you are sharing this, but let me just say this. Sydney probably went from not making six figures to making six figures. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And there's opportunities for bonus. And so what we're finding with MedicalSalesU is that our nurses, some of them are making 60, 80K, same with our pharmacists. They're making substantially more with this. And guess what? there is going to be hard work. There is going to be travel. Um, but there's hard work as a nurse. Like there's not always consistent hours as a nurse either. There's long nights,
Yes.
early mornings. So that's just, that just comes with the job. Sydney, when you first started this, I remember you went after an oncology sales position, right? And let me just ask this for our audience. When you joined the program, because there's nurses wondering if they should even jump into this. Were there any things that you learned in my program that you're like, I had no idea, that was not even on my radar to do, and I taught you how to do this and you implemented it? Are there any things like that?
Pretty much everything. This is entirely different. And nurses that are listening, I mean, this is so vastly different than what we're used to. Unfortunately, there is, a shortage of nurses, but and when you are applying to jobs, it's pretty much, you get the job. It's one interview. It's when can you start? We needed help, last month. We're ready to have you. And so this role coming into 5 rounds of interviewing and actually breaking in was so difficult because it's so much easier to find nursing jobs, but this was really hard. And that was a huge thing that I took from MedicalSalesU and everything that you taught. I mean, from having the LinkedIn and making sure the profile and like what you're saying in your bio, and then all of the people that you're connecting with and connecting with, as many people as you can to have, 500 plus connections. I looked at that. I'm like, oh my God, I think I have 20, when I looked at my first LinkedIn and all these things. And it was such a huge thing to see how important these connections are, this networking. And of course, Jennifer reaching out to you, that was an example right there, because you could network and everything on LinkedIn. So learning how to really amp that up. We don't learn that in nursing school. Plus this business plan. I mean, when you talked about that, I was like, there is no way that I would have ever created anything like that or have known to do that. And I know that set me apart from other applicants for sure. And when I applied to, so yes, I was looking for sales and clinical nurse educator. So one of the sales jobs I applied to in the beginning, I started to have the phone calls. And of course, I wouldn't even have known how to find these other sales specialists and these specific roles that I was applying for. And so of course, with MedicalSalesU, I learned how to, work that into my LinkedIn and find these people, especially the ones that were in my area. I remember talking to someone, she was so wonderful. And she was like, oh my gosh, I love your business plan. This is amazing. All of this stuff. She got me set up with another person and that phone call went entirely differently.
Wow.
That right there was my first big kind of setback where I was like, oh, wow, yeah, this is definitely a lot harder and I need to be prepared for this because he ripped me to shreds, really.
Well,
I mean, he asked me.
yeah, I was going to say, I think I remember that. And I think
Yes.
I remember that story, and I think I even remember the company. But what happened, if I recall correctly, is you started my process, but you were brand new. I mean, you've been in there
Yeah.
like maybe 2 weeks max, and
I
you're
think it was,
already maybe
maybe
a
2 weeks.
week, and you're creating your first customized business plan. You're networking. You're finding out, okay, if you're going to sell this cancer drug, who will be on your team? And so you're getting an internal referral, and then she refers you to a veteran rep who then asks you about the drug. But it's not just the drug. It's okay, what is the clinical trial? What's the mechanism of action? What's the primary and secondary endpoints?
Everything.
And all this technical stuff. And here's the truth. In pharma, we are going to find seasoned reps on every team who, they stay satisfied making about $250 every year. They're good. They're clinically have knowledge, but they kind of stay there for a long time. And they're like, this is my territory. And who's this young rookie? She doesn't have any sales experience. And I'm going to prove to her and I'm going to test her out. And they may grill you just to kind of show you that you don't know the drug and you can't do this. And I will just say to our audience, and I'll tell to our members, most sales teams have one of those people. And in our responsibility is, number one, don't get discouraged, because for every one of them, there's someone else who's going to believe in you, someone else who's going to see your potential, someone else who remembers what it's like to be still in their 20s, right? You're still in your 20s, right?
Yep.
And you're still in your 20s and still trying to navigate moving from being a nurse to, in sales or an oncology clinical specialist. So I would just say this, don't get discouraged. And I think in that moment, you experience what a lot of us do when we get rejected. Wow, this is going to be harder than I thought.
Definitely.
And that's why
exactly
with this program, it was harder, right?
Yes.
It was a wake-up call. And I think
it showed me that I needed to be more prepared. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, but figure out everything you could possibly know and know more than that, because that showed me right there that I really did not prepare enough for a call that I didn't think had any weight whatsoever. It wasn't an interview. It was just someone I was connecting with. The 3 phone calls before that were so casual. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll just have another one of these. And that is exactly the opposite of how that went. But it showed me I need to put in the work. I need to make sure that I'm preparing for these things, and every single conversation matters. I did get a little discouraged, but then I had to bounce back stronger, and I came back even more hungry to keep.
She came back stronger.
Yeah.
You did, and you certainly did. And I would say that to our members too. Mm-hmm. And is like there's members in our program right now who are going through this. And I would say this is one, what can we learn from that rejection? Right. That we can next time, if you're interviewing for pharma, you have to know the drug, you have to know the clinical trial, you have to know the FDA approval, and who's the competition. Second of all, it is, as I would say, it's okay. It's okay to get rejected. And here's another point is this, just don't let your guard down, because we will all meet different people in this industry who are so kind and so warm to us. It's the people that come to me who say, I love what you're teaching, Dave, but I don't need to hire a coach because I have my aunt, I have my cousin, I have my sorority sister, I have my fraternity brother who's helping me and they're mentoring me. And then they go through the process, they make it to the final round, and then they hear, oh, we went with someone who had more experience. Now, that's what they're told. The truth is they were not prepared, and they're limited. They can't hear these things. Like HR limits them of what they can actually say. And I would say this, often that friend, that aunt, that cousin, whoever's in the industry, help and mentor, they're not going to tell us, you have to be more prepared. And here's the truth is a lot of times we can let our guard down with other reps. And that's why in our program, I say to our members, no matter how kind that rep is, and in device, I say, you do a field ride, don't let your guard down. Be fun, be kind, but everything that you say could go back to that hiring manager. Yeah. And also that hiring manager may just listen to anything that other rep may say. And if that rep comes back and says, I don't think Sydney's prepared, then guess what? That hiring manager will not move forward. You made a tweak. You made an adjustment. And when I told you, look, Jennifer reached out to me, and I'm going to refer a couple names to her. You came prepared. What did you do to get ready for this next interview? You had 5 interviews, right? 5 interviews.
Yeah.
How did you research the drug and to find out about it?
So it was actually a really cool, the way it all worked out, because the drug hasn't launched yet, but we were able to know what the drug was going to be. So we were able to look it up. So cosabelimab unlocks it. So I really just looked into every single thing that I could find out about it. But I kind of actually did start from really the base and way back to like pathophysiology, nursing school. I needed to understand so that I could better educate. So I needed to understand the mechanism of action, and to the point, right, of like, so this is the pathway, this is how the pathway works, this is what this, type of cancer is doing to, the mutation that's on there. And that's why this drug works perfectly, because it's blocking this specific receptor and all of that stuff. So I really just kind of got down to that and worked my way up. So at the end, the fifth and final interview was actually a mock presentation of basically I was giving an interview or a educational presentation to a hypothetical group of infusion nurses. So I had to explain to them, a little bit about cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma and cases that aren't going to be, so very specific patient group. And when we're getting into specific scenarios where it can't be excised or radiated, and helping the nurse understand that. And then, this is how this pathway works. We all know how our immune system works, but this is a specific pathway that we're paying attention to. And then this is the drug that they've come up with that's blocking this specific pathway, so that then it can recognize the drug. And basically immunotherapy versus chemo, and immunotherapy helps our immune system. So making sure that if someone asked me any question, I would be able to feel confident answering it. So then I could go and help those infusion nurses feel the same way, and then show the team that was hiring me that I was prepared. My husband luckily has a science background, so he kind of learned it a little bit too alongside me, so that we could bounce back stuff.
Great.
And he could ask me some really difficult questions. But I felt like if I could answer those, then I could answer ones that maybe wouldn't be so difficult. So we worked back and forth together, which was really helpful. And I practiced the presentation probably 40 times at least.
I love it.
And until I felt like I could do it, without looking at my cards, or that, I went to bed and I'm like saying it in my head over and over again. So each interview leading up to that was actually a little bit different, each one. So each person wanted to kind of know a little bit of a different part of me and my background. But each time I prepared the same exact way. I definitely used AI and ChatGPT to kind of give me some of those possible questions that I could kind of look out for and answer the right way. And I just really went through practice questions for each of the things. And then each time I went through a little bit different, sometimes some overlapping, and then finally made it to that final round. And then, like I said, just practice, and figure out as much as you can and be confident in what you know.
For these positions, there are dozens of people that will apply. Sydney, you beat them all out. You beat out people with way more experience than you did. And I will tell this to people who come to me, is like, there's some people who say, well, I can do this. I've sold such and such. Or, I have former athletes who are like, well, I got grit and I'm a Division I baseball player and I got this, and this, or I was in trauma and I know this and this. And I think in the interview process, it's so important in pharma. Listen to me, audience. If you want to break into pharma, especially something like oncology, right? Whether it's a clinical educator role where you're working with nurses, or on the sales side, rather than just telling your success stories, if you can come ready and can tell the story of their product, that's what's going to make you stand out. And if you have someone you can practice with, do it, but record yourself, right? Not everybody has a husband who's in dental school, right? Right? Like, you is fortunate that your husband knows the science. And that's why we at MedicalSalesU, we just had another doctor join just recently. He's flying out here to Columbus, and he wants to break in similar to like you. We've had pharmacists and others, but there are people like me. And so for my audience, there may be someone listening to Sydney and be like, she's so articulate. She knows the science. I don't even know what she just said. Like PD-L1 inhibitor. Like, I don't even know what that is. That's okay. Because here's the truth. My background was in religion and philosophy. Okay. The hardest memorization I did was learning Greek, the language, like Plato and Aristotle. Okay. And then, I didn't have sales experience. I broke in later in life when I was 35. But here's the key. You can learn this. You can start with AI. Now, you always want to double check, because sometimes ChatGPT gets it wrong. We want to go to the website. We want to watch these YouTube videos. But I tell my audience, you can learn it. But what will really help is having a coach, having a community, having some accountability as well. Sydney, are you glad you joined MedicalSalesU?
Absolutely. I know I would never have found this job actually without you, Dave. I mean, this position was listed in Tennessee. It covers a huge territory. I'm covering Eastern and Central Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Northern Florida. and it wasn't even listed in South Carolina. So just that alone, with the connections and the networking and the people that you know and everything, that got me in the door. That got me this, this position. I had been applying, and it's like to find someone that wants to give you that chance, and and finally the right door opened. I think all of the applications and everything, and maybe the doors that I was trying to get into weren't the right ones. But each week, when we talked on the MedicalSalesU Zoom meetings twice a week, I would just feel like, as if I was feeling a little bit down, or like, oh my gosh, this person's getting this interview and this, but then I'd look at someone else and be like, okay, no, I'm doing exactly the right stuff. Or, I would have some people message me separately, or I'd message them and be like, what are you doing? What's happening that works? And just to have that community of people that are also trying to get into this at the same time, that was so huge, because it's really scary to try and get into this. It can be really, really defeating, because it's definitely really difficult. Like we said, a lot harder than I thought. So just being able to have that community, and then listening to the modules and figuring out all of these little things that I would have never thought to focus on, or make sure that, oh yeah, I really should make sure that that's, set in stone, or that I know that down, to the final, point, whatever, all of those little things that came together, it was perfect. So I would recommend MedicalSalesU to anyone. It gives you that great foundation, but then also that community as well, so that we're all working towards the same goal. We can all help each other. And then also, all these people that are like, you got this, good luck on your interview. Just to know you have these people in your corner, that alone was also so inspiring and helped me to keep going as well. And I'm sure everyone would probably feel the same way. It's a really cool community that you've built, and I absolutely would recommend it.
Well, thank you for those kind words. And you always brought that energy, not just helping you and your job, but you encourage others. And because that's what I love about the community. Sydney, there's something that I want to ask you about, because it may raise some questions. Like some people you mentioned Sun Pharmaceuticals, but
Yep.
Eversana, right? How does that work? Is one of the companies, Eversana, is a contract company, correct? How does that work?
Right. So Sun Pharma contracted Eversana. So technically I'm employed by Eversana, who built this nurse educator team. And Sun Pharma is who created the drug, and who we will be teaching nurses about that specific drug. So it's like a partnership, which is super cool. So I'll work with Jen, who's the director of clinical nurse educators at Sun. And then Susan, who is I think she's the vice president of medical deployment, if I can remember correctly. And she kind of oversees all those teams. So it's a really cool kind of, like a connection that they have together. So we'll be working with both, but technically I'm employed by Eversana.
That's fantastic. And I tell our members here is like these companies, other companies that are mentioned. We had someone just recently take a job with IQVIA, Abbott. It was again, contract. There was another one, my mind's drawing a blank, but another one of the companies someone took a job with just recently in our program. These contract companies, sometimes there's pluses and minuses. So one, is a great way to break in. So if someone doesn't have years of experience, sometimes these companies who are contracted out and working on behalf of the larger pharma company will hire someone without quite as much experience. Now, let me ask you this: is it a contract work? Or are you fully employed? Full-time? Excellent.
It's a little bit different than like the IQVIA roles.
Yes.
I mean, they really, Sun fully wanted a team of clinical nurse educators, and it's really cool to be working with a company. When I was talking to Jen, she's really excited that they are seeing the value in having a nurse educator, not just the sales reps, to be able to go in and be like, you know what, I've done this. I've been in your shoes as a nurse. So Sun, it's a little bit different than that, because I know exactly what you're talking about. It really is like a full partnership together, not so much like a contract thing. I am full-time in this role. So, but it is really cool. And I think that the clinical nurse educator role is starting to get more popular, more common. A lot more, this is what Jen was trying to explain to me a little bit, that more pharmaceutical companies are maybe trying to adopt this role and are seeing the value in it, specifically nurse to nurse communication. So it's really cool that Sun is one of those, and that Eversana and this whole thing came together, so, and that I can be a part of it.
I love that. And so that's just a great tip, is as our members and even the audience of this podcast are networking, sometimes if it's a company like Eversana, to understand what company they're working with for this particular role. And that might mean a little bit more strategy with the networking. And also, again, thanks for mentioning Jennifer. I don't know if she'll hear this, but it's just a reminder, hiring managers, I want to make the job easy for you. And so right now we have talent, and, you know, I'll just put this out there. I'm not biased. So people are like, well, do I push you in over one company over the next? No, I don't. But what I can do is set up these hiring managers with success, with people who've really have gone through some rigorous work to be prepared. And honestly, up until this point, all these companies, I'm saving them money, right? Because I'm not charging them anything, right? Now in the future, we'll see about that. But right now, it's a great opportunity, right? But we have more and more companies reaching out to me daily, hiring managers. We have some of them coming into the studio to give us tips about what they are looking for. Nate Yohe, he was just here from Boston Scientific, giving tips about what he likes to ask in the interview process. And so for our audience, we just want to encourage you, whether you're a hiring manager, whether you're a nurse like Sydney wanting to break in. Sydney, you've provided a lot of value. Now, okay, by the time our audience listens to this, it'll be in the springtime, but we have Christmas coming up here. You posted a great picture of your husband and your dog, right? Tell us a little bit about, for fun, what you do when you're not working so hard.
So my husband and I love to do anything outside with our dog. Specifically, we try Charleston and South Carolina really as a whole. I mean, we've only lived in Charleston, is so dog friendly. So it's definitely really different than New York. The weather's also way better. We're totally loving that. We can be outside longer. I mean, I was just walking the dog yesterday. We took a nice walk together in one of our favorite, really cute neighborhoods. There's like a big body of water in between. You can walk along the water, and there's just so many beautiful places like that here. And
I love Charleston. It's beautiful.
My mom was like, oh, that's cool. It's snowing up here. Wow. So it's so cool. We just love to be outside. Of course, we love to go to the beach when it's nice out. I mean, and you can really still go to the beach. People are on the beach at Christmas. So last year we were on the beach at Christmas. Yeah. So
how warm was it during Thanksgiving?
It was like 60, I think. Mm-hmm.
I love Charleston.
It was perfect. Yeah. So we do a lot of stuff. We love to try the food scene here is crazy. The amount of restaurants here that serve like food better than I've ever had ever. And Buffalo had good food. And as much as I don't miss the snow, I do miss like the food. I haven't had wings as good down here. The chicken wings up there, you can't beat those. But down here, oh my gosh, we have just had so much fun exploring all the different cuisines. And I feel like these restaurants down here make art in the food, and it's so cool. So we're big foodies. We're big.
Okay, name one restaurant that you and your husband went to that was fantastic.
Oh my gosh. So actually, it depends on what you want, because I really feel like I couldn't pick a favorite, but the best barbecue is Lewis Barbecue for sure. One of our favorite restaurants, Obstinate Daughter, is in Sullivan's Island. That's kind of like Italian food-esque. And then we have seriously tried so many different places. Now I'm trying to think of my favorite ones off the top of my head. I should have come prepared with my list.
That's all right. You've given us a couple.
Oh my God, wait, do you think I could take a second and show you my list? We can crop this part out.
Okay.
But I have this really good, so we love, in Lowland, Southbound, Sorelli, Post House, Wild Olives over on the other side in James Island, Melfi's, Sullivan's Fish Camp, So there are really, those are just a couple of our
We could do a
favorites.
whole nother podcast about that food in Charleston. You
Yeah,
know,
for
just
sure.
we'll
Absolutely.
just keep that in there because like I've gone into Charleston a couple of times, not a lot, but I think one time I went out on a cruise from Charleston too. But it's a
Oh
great
yeah.
place, even for the day. Historic town, great food. I need to go back. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But
It's awesome.
that's great. Sydney, you've been very helpful. Thank you so much for joining Medical Sales U, investing in yourself in this program. You're going to make a great oncology clinical educator. Lives will be changed. Nurses will be confident that they can administer this treatment to help save lives of cancer patients. So thank you so much. You're making a difference as a nurse, but just in a new, unique way. And we are so excited for you. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. Anyone that's going through this, trying to get into this world, it seems really intimidating, overwhelming, but you'll find that right door that's for you. Just keep pushing, just keep doing it, network, go to Dave as a resource, all of these things that come together, your time will come. Don't give up. It took me about 4 months, but I found this perfect avenue, this perfect door that I've been waiting all this time for, and I'm really excited about it. So thank you so much for all you've done and for having me on the podcast.
Thank you, Sydney. If you're trying to break into medical device or pharmaceutical sales, or maybe you're ready to reinvent yourself into a new specialty like oncology, our program, MedicalSalesU, can help.
I'm extremely grateful for Dave Starrett and his program, MedicalSalesU.
I'm now making $60,000 more than I was as a pharmacist.
I highly recommend the program. I just landed an incredible dream job.
Our members come from every background: nurses, pharmacists, teachers, athletes, and they're breaking in fast, averaging $151,875 in 11 and a half weeks. Many are earning over $200K. The industry is changing lives. You can change lives. Check us out, MedicalSalesU. Invest in yourself, and let's get you in the game.